So we're bringing you to the Nikon stage here today to talk to you about directing over posing. Ladies and gentlemen, from Sacramento, California, Chloe Ramirez.
Thank you so much, Mike. Oh my goodness, what an intro. So this is directing over posing. Thank you so much for coming. I know there's a lot of people to see, and I'm so honored that you came and saw me today. So, hello, I am Chloe Ramirez, and I've been photographing love and connection for over 14 years now, which is absolutely crazy for me to think about. And when I first started in this industry, I had the absolute audacity to think that photographing love and connection was gonna be this walk in the park, easy thing to do. They're in love, right? How hard could it possibly be? But I was forgetting that one thing that happens when we raise that camera to our face. People just get a little bit awkward. Who here has ever been personally victimized by a bad tagged photo of yourself on Instagram? Yep, I see hands, me too. And what happens to us when we see that photo of ourselves? It's very confirming of our internal dialogue, right? That anxiety-inducing one, that when we show up in front of that camera that we're not going to be able to do it. It just makes us feel so awkward. But the person who took that photo likely did it with no malice. They just took that shutter real quick and moved on with their lives. But for you, it was an absolutely defining moment for you. So, we need to start caring, like truly caring about who is in front of our cameras. What this does is when we start caring about who's in front of our cameras, we go from putting people in these random poses to actually thinking through the storyline, how they fell in love, what would be most flattering for them. And what that does, it creates a beautiful experience for them to flourish and makes our job easier too. I love this quote by Kevin Bacon. A good director creates an environment which gives the actors the encouragement to fly. Our couples are the actors, and we are the director, and we need to be supporting them through the entire shoot. So when I show up to a shoot, I like to start first by finding or creating the light. Once I do that, I can get them into poses and get them moving. So over the next few slides, I'm going to be talking about certain photos and how I kind of put them in the pose and how I figured out the light. So for this shot, this was in a very grand ballroom, and they were a musician couple. And again, we're talking a lot about stories because I do truly remember each person that's in front of my lens. It's very important to me. And we had them on the piano, and that was very interesting. But I saw off to the left, there was these big, beautiful windows with extremely harsh light coming in. I love all kinds of light, and harsh light is like, mwah, so beautiful. So I initially had her set up here. I had her face towards the light. I had her move in this cute way, and we got this shot. But I'm a couples photographer, so I really wanted to include her partner in this frame. And I was kind of racking my brain on how I could do this. We tried a few different things, and no matter what I did, I got one of those lines, those shadows from the window on his face, and that's not the look I was going for. So what I did is I just had him stand a few feet in front of her, out of that direct light, and I exposed for the highlight on her cheek, and I just wanted to show the silhouette of him. And how I told her to be is I just said, I want you to look at him adoringly. And she did such a great job with it. I love this shot. We were in a dark church of some sort, and it was in Phoenix. It was so beautiful. I was teaching a workshop, and the sun had set fairly quickly, a lot quicker than I initially had thought. And on site, they had a ton of candles, like those prayer candles. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna light them with candles, which I will show you later in this slideshow. But the lights in there were like this really warm, awful lighting, and mixed with the candlelight, it absolutely did not work in any way. So I just had them come as close as humanly possible to that window, exposed for the highlight on her cheek, and just directed them into this moment. When we're looking for things, it's always nice, like when we're walking into a room, to just go ahead and turn off the lights so we can see where our natural light is coming from. I love this photo right here. Again, I was teaching this at a workshop maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was one of those hotel rooms that was just very uninteresting, right? You walk in, there's a bed, there's a window, there's a desk for some reason, and it was just very, So I knew I had to like kind of think outside of the box here and really like up the creativity. It was a really overcast day, and the view from that window, it was nothing to write home about. It was not memorable. And so I saw her standing over there by the blackout curtain, and I saw that beautiful rim light on her face, and I thought, okay, this might be interesting. All I did is I had someone hold that blackout curtain as tight as humanly possible to create a very, very straight line. I had her stand on that side, him stand right over by the window. So what that does, if you expose for the highlight on her cheek, is creates that beautiful, nice rim light on her face and causes him to be a silhouette. And is this the most emotive image you've ever saw? No. But what this did is it created kind of like this design element, and it made it a very interesting composition. And you can see that that risk I took 7 years ago still plays out in how I photograph people at my shoots now. So for this one, I just had a continuous light in between two V-flats on the black side, shining down on them, sprayed a little atmosphere, and had them come together nice and close. And it creates this beautiful atmosphere. It almost looks like window lights opening up to them. So you can create this kind of light. You don't have to wait around to find it. Again, play on that original pose I did 7 years ago, except for this time I had them both and this was with window light, both in the curtain side, creating kind of like this nice little vibe. When I'm at a shoot, sometimes my initial idea of what I want does not turn out right, and I just really want you to slow down and take your time. There's just something that happens to photographers, and we think that we gotta show up at our shoots and just like bam, 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 like just knock out all these photos. And we think that our clients might think we don't know what we're doing if we slow down. But the thing is, it's fine. We're artists. This isn't fast food photography, right? Like we wanna create art, and art takes time, and art takes some thought. So for this one, I initially took it, I wanted that cool light from the neon sign. We were in a bar in a bowling alley, if you could believe it. And there was too much reflection because we had this wall of windows on this side that was blackout, like we couldn't see through them. And initially, when I had it straight on, it just was boring. And you could read the sign from the neon, it just felt too So I told them, I literally was like, I actually want to use this, and I'm not sure how I want to, so just give me a few minutes to think about that. What that does is it gives them the expectation that, okay, it's not us, we're not doing anything wrong. She just needs to think through it. That makes sense. So give yourself permission to slow down. So all I did as I moved my body to the side, shot alongside that window and used it as this beautiful reflection. And I just had him come behind her, and I said, I just want you to wrap her up, kiss her a bunch of times, and just fully be in the moment. This, another bar, I got a lot of bar photos apparently. He was very nervous. He was very nervous for this shoot, and he's like, I wish I had a shot. And I was like, well, there's a bar there, we can have a shot. And so she ended up changing into this beautiful, like, sparkly ball gown. I love the juxtaposition there. And we got him a shot, he was feeling better. And I saw this photo booth, and I was like, we gotta take a photo in that photo booth. And they were thinking like the strips. I'm like, no, I'm gonna take a photo of you in the photo booth. And I saw that Get Loose sign, and I was like, okay, Get Loose, what is the story here? We're at a bar, right? Says Get Loose. I want them to be in that photo booth like they're like a little drunk and it's the end of their evening, right? But the problem is when I put them in that photo booth, there was not enough light on them. And so all I did is I took my phone out of my pocket, I placed it on where, like, inside there, and the light was really harsh. And because it was so harsh and it was coming from behind her head, she was completely in shadow. All I had him do is kiss her neck, and I said, when he's kissing your neck, I want you to throw your head back like you're having the best day of your life. You're never gonna forget this. And then they delivered. She's like pulling his coat in, all those little elements help to tell the story. This image I love so much. I'm a family photographer as well, and I always end my sessions with the couples. And the reason I do this is because I want my moms and dads to leave without the chaos of the photo shoot of the family, right? Family photo shoots can feel extremely chaotic, and you're like, oh gosh, I hope this photographer got a photo. But the experience of the photo shoot is so important to me that I want to make sure that I leave mom and dad in this mindset of like, oh yes, I love this man, I love this woman, I love my partner. And so for this shot, she was quite shy, and he was a little more extroverted. And I always like to make sure that I'm not pushing people out of their boundaries because the experience of the photo shoot is so important to me. So he is a professional guitarist, and I really wanted that element of him playing to his wife in the kitchen. And initially, my first thought was, I really want her to be, she had this beautiful like prairie dress on. I wanted her to be swinging the dress around and dancing in the kitchen. And the look of terror that washed over that woman's face when I said I wanted her to dance in the kitchen while I took photos of her. She was not about it. I read the room right away and knew that that was not going to be the pose for her. I said, you know what, actually, I didn't wait for her to be like, I didn't want to cross the line with her. I said, actually, I want you just to come really, really close to him and just look at him adoringly, and he's going to play for you. And what that does is it gives him the job, and she can just participate in a very, very easy way, making the experience so much better for her. And initially, I did not see that reflection. It was just her shoulder. And that's when I was like, hey, can you lift your guitar a little bit up so I can see more of her face? And in post-processing, I just brushed on a little more exposure, and we were able to get this shot. Again, finding the light. We were literally walking from their living room to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and I saw this opportunity here. So I had her just as close to the slider as possible, looking over her shoulder, and I wanted to include him in some way. Initially, he was just right next to her, kissing her neck. It didn't do anything for me. I saw the reflection and the opportunity here. I just had him step a few steps back. And of course, there's no windows on this side, nowhere for me to put a flash. I initially wanted him to look in the mirror, so it was creating this kind of interesting composition, but it wasn't working. So I had to think quick, and I just had him look out that same window. And so now we got that beautiful light on his face, which is also shown in the reflection here. So directing the feeling and movement. It's easy enough to find the light, right, and work through the creative process. Like, we're photographers, our first love is light. But how can we get people into the moment, get them moving? This is how you do it. People show up and they literally don't know what to do. They're like, we've never had our photo taken, or the last time I had my photo taken, I was, it was my senior photos. So what I like to do is to get them out of their head, get them moving. Do not do any stagnant pose, superposed photos first, because what that's going to do is they're going to be thinking, the internal dialogue, going back to that, about every insecurity they've ever had. I don't want them thinking about that their arms are fat. I don't want them thinking about their double chins. I don't want them thinking about if their outfit is the right for the location. None of that. I want to almost like shake it up and get them out of their head. So how do we do that? We get them moving. You can get them walking, you can get them running. This is something I do often at the very start of my shoot. So for this one, I'm uphill, they're downhill, they're walking hand in hand, and all I told him is I want you to grab her hand and lead her. And I told her, I was like, I just want you to be like, ha, this is so fun. And she did that. I directed exactly the energy I wanted from them, and they did it beautifully. When we micromanage the pose, sometimes it becomes too much of our vision and it doesn't become a beautiful collaboration with them. We miss that opportunity when we just direct them. This is another pose I like to do often. All I had him do is wrap his arm over her shoulder. She reaches up, grabs his hand, and I said, I want you just to walk home like you had a few drinks, you're coming home from the bar, and you're a little tipsy. Drunk in the body, not in the face. I don't want them to look crazy. So I said, don't look at me, don't break the fourth wall. I'm not here. So they did that. And each couple is going to interpret that in a different way, right? Because I'm giving them and directing them the feeling and the movement that I want from them, it's going to be different for each couple. This one, what I had him do is I said, you're gonna walk towards me, and at some point I'm gonna say kiss, and you're just gonna kiss and you're gonna keep walking, and it's gonna feel really chaotic. Sometimes I get laughter, sometimes I get people who wanna like do it the best. It's so fun, and I always love seeing how each couple does it. Again, getting them moving. I love having a guy scoop up his woman and spin her around. You can do this a variety of different ways. And if you just say, I want you to pick your girl up and twirl her around, some people will pick up like this. Some people will pick up underneath their armpits and spin them. You don't know. And that's the great thing. We don't want to micromanage too much. And if they ask you, and they always do, well, how should I pick up? I said, I don't care, just do it. And then they do. So for this, I'm up close. Notice I am cutting feet off. I am cutting a dress off. I am cutting out, I do not care. I want that 35 millimeter up in their face like you are right there with them. Like you are experiencing the joy and happiness that is this moment. So movement can be subtle. Right here, he was very shy. And we love a shy guy, but he showed up for his girl because she wanted these photos, right? And what I do for people who are shy is I give all the direction to the extroverted person if I have one, or I just kind of calm down the session to meet them where they're at. We were about midway with this shoot, and I knew that like he was kind of warming up. All I had him do was unbutton his jacket with one hand, which you can imagine is kind of difficult, over and over and over again. And what that does, that subtle movement, again, it gives him a job to do and gets him out of his head. And she was just twirling her hair because she's gorgeous. This one, again, using hair, using movement to kind of make it interesting. Notice my shy guy, he's just crouching. He's not doing anything crazy. She's the one that's flipping her hair. Again, slowing down and pacing ourselves. So people, when you make a friend, are you immediately talking about all your deepest, darkest secrets? No, that would be weird. People would think you're weird. No, we're laughing with them, we're having drinks with them, we're getting to know each other, we're asking questions. So notice all those poses at the beginning, we want to bond with them, we want to be their friend, and then I slow it down. And it sounds counterintuitive, right? Like we're just gonna get people hyped up to slow them down. How do we do that? We just mirror the exact feeling and direction that we want from them. Just pretend you're wearing a giant mirror. People will do what you want. If I all of a sudden lower my voice and I say, okay, so now I want to do this, and we explain the process, people will meet you there. I love putting women over men because I feel like oftentimes in photography, couples photography, we see the man as the dominant one. Like, I cuddle my husband all the time. Like, sometimes, like, you know. So I had her sit up on that bed and him in between her legs, and this is all the direction I gave them. I said, I want this to be a really calm, like very simple photo, and I want you to physically drape your body over him. And I said the words drape because I don't want to micromanage the pose. And she did this so beautifully. We got it this way with her arms in front, which was nice. And notice all the light is coming from the left-hand side. We had a giant window there. It was wonderful. We have a window behind, creating a little hair light. And I told them, the light's coming from this side, so I want to make sure that when you're draping your body over him, you're keeping that chin up towards the light. Clue them into the process. People want to know what to do. I do. Oh, there it is. So using fabric is another beautiful way to add a little motion. I love this photo because when I asked this couple, they're a beautiful couple, they got married at the City Hall, and it's, if you've been to San Francisco, City Hall, it is gorgeous, like gold leafing everywhere. And this photo is my favorite photo from there, not showcasing the location in any sort of way. And I said, I want to do a veil shot. And they both immediately were like, no, that seems kind of cheesy. We don't want to do the veil over the head shot. And I was like, oh, no, I want to try something different. So all I did is I had the bride take a few steps, and I just had her hold the fabric like this. And what that did is it created a little tension, and I was able to get this beautiful photo of her wife. And I said, I just want you to look up, and I want you to look proud. And that's what she did. So I directed the feeling and the emotion in her face, as well as the direction of the veil and movement. You can use fabric, you can use clothing, you can get scrappy. Sometimes people are in beautiful dresses where you can have them swing it, and that's wonderful. For this shot here on the right, I just had her take her dress, and there was a ton of fabric, and I had her throw it towards me, just over and over and over. And as you can imagine, I'm not asking them to like smile at each other. I don't care what they do. I want them to feel a little awkward and get those natural smiles. All I told him to do was like to whisper in her ear or something, and like they were naturally laughing because I was like, just kept it going a little bit longer than I should to create that awkward tension. And man, did they deliver. That's so amazing. And then sometimes people are wearing clothing that's not flowy. I don't want people to ever show up to shoots in something that doesn't feel absolutely like them. So I do not try and like tell them what to wear too much. He had this jacket and I wanted a little more motion. They were a pretty calm couple, which I love, and I didn't want to like push them over the top. All I had him do is take his jacket and wrap her up over and over and over and over and over again. Some people would laugh with this, they didn't, and I don't care. I love this shot so much because it fits them. So for this photo, so fun. You see the champagne sprays all the time, but we were like, let's grab some PBR and like try it with beer. It's very hard. Let me tell you, it's very hard to do it with beer. You have to just like open it a little bit. But we're at the top level of a parking garage, and the ceiling was very unremarkable. So initially, I was doing this photo with a 35 millimeter, which is also an incredible, it's a big mistake. Like I was smelling like beer the rest of the time. So I switched to an 85, and yes, I use portrait lens for weird things sometimes too. You can use your lenses any way you want to. And when I did it with the 35, I was shooting it like straight on. Like if they were right here, I was here. And what that did is all these windows were very distracting, and you couldn't see all the little water droplets. I wanted to see the water droplets. So all that backlight, when all I had to do was crouch down and shoot up, I had this beautiful dark ceiling, and all those little water droplets were now showing up. All I had her do is I'm like, you guys are gonna look at each other like you're having the best time of your life, and you're just gonna shake those and then spray them. And I was just like ready to go. I love, love, love these shots. You can use light and direction even with silhouettes. These are in motion photos. I just used a projector for that one on the right. And the one on the right was a mistake. I had to work through it because it was not exactly what I initially wanted. I initially wanted it to be where there was a projection of a scene onto them. And know how to work your gear before you use it. I showed up and it was the menu screen. And I was like, I could not figure out for the life of me how to get the images I wanted to project on them. I figured it out later. But they were hungry, they were tired, it was time for them to go. So I had to think quick. I was like, let me just spin it around and spray some atmosphere to catch the light. So all those crazy colors you're seeing is just that menu screen, you know, the one that like dances around like this, showing up. And we were able to get this photo. What I had her do, he was on the edge of the bed seated, and she was straddling him, his legs, and I said, I want you to go all the way up on your knees, and I want you to pretend to take your shirt off like this. And she's like, okay, keep in mind, this is my shy couple actually, keep in mind that this is at the end of the session, and because you start with like this hard ball of clay at first, right? You gotta warm people up, and now they'll do anything for me because I've created a place of trust for them. So I said, I want you to get up high on your knees, and I want you to look down at him, and I want you to worship her. And I said those words. That is how I posed the scene. We had one little piece of her twist hanging down so we could show and highlight her hair. I took this image maybe 5 years ago, and it has inspired me since to keep using projectors. I have a little mini projector that I travel with, which is maybe a weird thing to say, and us photographers are like, yeah, I do that too. Only here at WPPI. And they were over a table. They had their elbows on the table, leaning in, and I had my projector on 3 books, pointed up at them. I did have an actual picture at the time. It was not the menu screen. So I was wanting purples and blues to kind of create that mood. And I said, I just want you guys to look at each other like you're almost going to kiss. I wanted that tension, right? Like sometimes the kiss can be so boring and not so flattering. I wanted the almost kiss, and because it was a silhouette, if I had them kissing, we would lose the shape of them. And I did not want to do that. So earlier we were talking about lighting people with candles. This is that same couple from previously. And the beautiful thing when you don't have light is you can use anything. You can use strobe, you can use continuous light, you can use a street lamp, you can use candles. I just happened to have a ton of candles at this venue, and I was like, let's go. So all I did is this was giving me like a Selena, like 90s vibe that I really, really loved. I just placed a candle wherever I wanted to highlight. Notice, like, you can see the edge of his jacket right here. That was purposeful. You can see her hip. You can see he's holding that to light his face. She's holding that to light her face. Without those, it would be like completely orange and crazy looking. Placing things like that makes it really, really easy. I love, love, love this image so much. Again, placing candles where you want. This is a very risky pose to do with people because it's a little bit sexy, and sexy can be a little scary to pose people and direct it. But if you have the right client, do it. If you don't, you know that line by the end of the session. He has a full body tattoo. Like, he almost looks like he's wearing clothes, and I found that to be very, very interesting. So I had him lay on his back, and I lit the candles this way. I did not know how I wanted her in the scene until I looked down. I was shooting with a 24 millimeter just like right over him. And I was like, she was already topless because we had done some photos like that. And I was like, I want you to lay right here on his leg. And then I placed more candles right by her face. And what that did is it's created this beautiful circular composition. And at this point, they had trusted me because I really, like I said, that clay had warmed them up throughout the whole shoot. All right. Thank you so, so much for coming here today. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you, Nikon. Thank you, WPPI.